It's heartrending, troubling, and it deeply bothers the carapace of my mind to see that we have, under the name of our dear president, no primary school certificate, no secondary school certificate, and then a certain Chicago State University information. And then you ask yourself, ought not a man have the basics before you get the other ones? And that is why it does trouble me that we're back to square one again, Victor. Because in 1999, when Mr. President ran for office of governor of Lagos State, he tendered a primary school and a secondary school certificate, albeit under oath. So if those documents or those information that he tendered in 1999 and 2003 were found to be fake, however, they were tendered under oath, that means that he has lied under oath. That means if in 2026 they have decided to remove it from the record, it means that he perjured, he lied, he forged, he faked a document. And that automatically disqualifies him from running in 2027.
All right, INEC has published the list of presidential candidates and their running mates and academic qualifications. But looking at the reality, especially where the incumbent president did not present basic education qualifications, what does this mean for our democracy?
Victor, that bothers me deeply. Politics should be more than mere electoral contestation. Politics should be deeper than just what the opposition or what the ruling party says. Politics should be about conscience, values, and psychosocial minimums and parameters that societies must be governed by. And I'm speaking deeply here. If the law provides for certain basic norms for you to become president and says that you either have a school cert or its equivalent on the one hand, and then the law also says that if you have forged or made through an affidavit, because every data you submit to INEC regarding your choice or quest for electoral office, you come by way of affidavit. I ran for president in 2011, so I know what that means. And with all sense of respect, that provision of the law says that if you have, by way of an affidavit, tendered a document that is found to be fake or forged, you lack the right, you lose the basic constitutional right to contest, you should be disqualified. And very unfortunately, and albeit tragically, Victor, I'm speaking deeply, love for country, you know the name of my movement is Country First. I have no biases against anybody, and I've said repeatedly that I happen to wear a second hat after the Country First movement hat, which is Project Vote Competency and Capacity. So for me, it's not necessarily about Peter Gregory Obi, not necessarily about Atiku Abubakar, and not necessarily about Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It's about country. And so when we look at the issues regarding the data released by INEC, it's heartrending, troubling, and it deeply bothers the carapace of my mind to see that we have, under the name of our dear president, no primary school certificate, no secondary school certificate, and then a certain Chicago State University information. And then you ask yourself, ought not a man have the basics before you get the other ones? And that is why it does trouble me that we're back to square one again, Victor. What the judiciary and what Nigerians should do is think about our collective morality, think about our moral margins, think about credibility, think about integrity as we discuss these issues. Because what are we teaching generation next? get to any level by hook, crook, or subterfuge, and then somebody says to you, oh, he has a competency. What about the basics? And here I'm speaking deeply, because in 1999, when Mr. President ran for office of governor of Lagos State, he tendered a primary school and a secondary school certificate, albeit under oath. So if those documents or those information that he tendered in 1999 and 2003 were found to be fake, however, they were tendered under oath, that means that he has lied under oath. That means if in 2026 they have decided to remove it from the record, it means that he perjured, he lied, he forged, he faked a document. And that automatically disqualifies him from running in 2027. But it does trouble me that nobody's talking about that in that light. It does trouble me that what everybody's saying is, oh, he's doing well. What everybody's saying, oh, is he should finish his job. And nobody's thinking about what margins, what moral margins, what values will leave for generation next. It does bother me, Victor. And one other side to it is the fact that if we don't right some of these wrongs today, posterity, our children will look us in the face and say, when that happened, when someone lied under oath, what did you do? Did he not become president? When someone who didn't have a primary school or a secondary school certificate presented a university degree from Chicago, did you not overlook it? What did you people do? And so it does bother me deeply that we're digging a pit for all of us. It does bother me that when we politic, we do not think about the score of history or posterity. It does bother me that going forward into 2027, there are issues that we have left unaddressed, and I think that there is indeed a challenge to the judiciary, a challenge to the civil society, and a challenge to anybody who truly loves their country. I have said, and I'm repeating it here, that what I am for come 2027 is competency, capacity, and commitment to the common good. I am not here to sell any candidate. I will not sell any candidate until I see a manifesto that addresses the fundamental issues of state.
All right, let's look at it from the context of he met the basic minimum. They said even if it's just secondary school attempted, in the opinion of INEC, you're able to read and write. Yeah. That's why it is okay. So if somebody is saying that all things are passed away, so the papers he presented in 2019, 2009, 2023, that he didn't present them any longer, is it still logical to say that he lied under oath and he should stand disqualified?
Victor, strongly let me say that your sins are forgiven is not the normative here. It's about societal values. It's about moral minimums. It is about the law. If you lied under oath, it's a crime. And that crime under our law is sufficient to disqualify you. It's not about citizen Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and it's not about the emotions. It's about our society. It's about our moral margins. It's about our legal margins. It's about what is right, trite, and right. That cliche, Caesar's wife must be above board, is because those who govern, those who think about society, those who think that things must be done right, conceptualized logical minimums. And I say this clearly. Now, the minimums, as it were, is school set or its equivalent, and that connotes what we have now come by as a common phraseology, the ability to read and write. Read and write. Now, that's not a problem. But the question is, before this sudden realization, did he lie under oath? The question is, before this sudden realization, did he present a forged document? The question is, before this sudden realization, did he offend the Constitution? And the answer is yes. And I said this clearly. In 1999, when citizen Bola Ahmed Tinubu ran for Lagos State governorship, there was a certain primary school that they put in the records of INEC that never existed. Then the secondary school that he allegedly attended in Lagos in 1970, the year before I was born, was only founded in 1974, 3 years after I was born. So, in actuality, he didn't attend any secondary school in Lagos. And then don't also forget that citizen Gani Fayemi did take him up on it. And it was even in the course of that legal contestations that we found out that there was somewhere also that allegedly he attended, they said he allegedly attended CMS Grammar School or so in Ibadan, government college in Ibadan. And then the government college in Ibadan old boys came out and they said they never met him there. He was never there. And so they threw that away. But you see, when you swear to an affidavit, when you swear on the oath that you attended a school that never existed, that's a lie. And what does the Constitution envisage? When you do that, you stand disqualified from running for elections. It's not about, and if we must build a country where rectitude, where right is right, then we should rise beyond partisan politics and politics. I think that it behoves even on APC as a party to think about the life of the party and what is said of the party 10, 20 years after, because, we had these issues about, in 2015, there was this argument that whether the former President Buhari had NEPA paper, NEPA bill or whatever, water bill, he was good enough. And after 8 years, Nigerians realized that he wasn't good enough. After 8 years, even his party has said that most of the problems they inherited in 2023 was caused by him, and that the economy had gone kaput and things were wrong because he didn't do things rightly.
What do you make of those who have argued that it doesn't matter whether he attended a formal primary school or secondary school? After all, in those days, people can sit for exams without necessarily going through primary and secondary school.
Yeah, my worry is when an individual has questions with date of birth, an individual has questions with names, and the last count, I heard about 4 or 5 different names. Amoda, Yakini, Ogunlere, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, one individual. When an individual has issues about date of birth, some say 1946, some say 1952, some say 1953, one individual. When one individual has these baggages, when one individual allegedly attended government college in Ibadan, allegedly attended CMS in Lagos, allegedly attended schools that never existed when they said he attended those schools, it calls to question. These are the moral, it's a signpost, Victor. We're talking about a nation, for God's sake. We're not talking about a private company. We're talking about a nation. We're not talking about an individual town association where they say, oh, we know him. We're talking about the margins, the imagery, the perception, the impression. We're talking about how this goes home to the people. We're talking about how posterity perceives the moment. We're talking about what the law says. So it's beyond these emotions and sentiments, Victor. What I'm talking about is about our nation, not about APC, ADP, ADC, NDC, not about candidates and candidacy, not about parties and partisanship, not about politics or politics. I'm talking about our nation. I'm talking about how we are perceived, not only by the present, but by the future and the international community.
Who will bail the cat? In this instance, who will look at President Tinubu and say, you stand disqualified because you lied under oath?
We'll go to the courts. We'll go to the courts of public opinion too. We'll go to the courts of justice. We'll talk to posterity. We'll talk to Nigerians. We'll talk to history. We'll talk to everybody who must be talked to. And people must, citizen action. Victor, I don't think that giving up on any major situation, like I told you the other time I was here, there is a bell that rings from the earliest of times. That bell is as old as humankind. The call to justice, the call to equity, the call to fairness, the call to due process. I'll give you an instance, Victor. No nation necessarily was founded or formed by saints. But men rose up and made to themselves laws. And because they wanted a beloved society and a community that works for the good of all, they chose to abide by those laws, not minding how it affected them, not minding whose ox was God. The time has come for us to raise the margins and, as people in the civil society, as people in political movements, as statesmen, as elders, as people who worship at the temple of justice, it's a call to all of us. A call to do right. A call to fix nation. A call to challenge our collective conscience. And Victor, I've said to people that I'd leave, if for anything, as a question mark on the collective conscience of our nation and indeed and our people. And let me say this, Victor. Do you have a lane on tomorrow? Do you have a lane or an executed document with the Almighty that you will see 90 years? Do you have a guarantee that you will see 70 if you're not near? Now, why are we all scared? Why aren't we thinking about how we build a nation that is answerable to our citizens? Why aren't we concerned about how we build a nation that does right, that applauds right, that salutes right? Why aren't we bothered about how things work in this country? Why are we all too easily willing to allow sleeping dogs lie? Why are we all too willing to suffer fools gladly? Why are we so scared about what affects and how things affect us? I want to say here that there wouldn't have been any preacher from Atlanta, Georgia, like Martin Luther King Jr. if he didn't conquer fear. And Victor, I want to say here that the fear of a snake in the wild is not cowardice. But you know what? Precautions are necessary and needed. Yes, I agree. But I also think that we must challenge the conscience of this nation